Showers of praise from around the world after the death of opposition leader Benazir Bhutto in Pakistan, but there are some who don't have such fond memories of the murdered former Pakistani Prime Minister. Here to talk about what he sees as the other side of Bhutto, retired U.S. Army Colonel Ralph Peters. He is also a New York Post columnist. Ralph, you used some language that some people might find harsh 24 hours after the death of this woman saying that she, using words like corrupt in reference to her.
Well, when she was assassinated, she was under investigation, she and her husband under investigation by the Swiss government for money laundering. Look, what outrages me is how she conned us, Democrats and Republicans. You come to Washington as a Muslim or a Muslim woman from the Middle East, and you say the word democracy, and everybody gets starry-eyed. But you need to look at her record. She was Prime Minister of Pakistan twice, presided over two of the most corrupt regimes in Pakistani history, and that is saying something. She let her cronies loot the education system, which opened the door for the madrasas, the religious schools, to turn out terrorists. I was in Pakistan during her second administration. She was allowing blessing the ISI, her CIA, going in and backing the Taliban in Afghanistan. Women's rights, she did nothing for poor women. She looted the country. Her husband went to prison for looting the country. And then all she has to do is come west, speak with that sort of Pakistani Oxford accent, and tell us she's a Democrat. And we're so desperate for good news from the region that everybody buys into it. Well, I'll tell you what Benazir Bhutto was. Well, she was Ahmed Chalabi with lipstick.
The administration was obviously pushing hard to get this reunion, they called it, this unification between Benazir Bhutto and Pervez Musharraf. I guess they thought that she would be sort of a counterweight to him and perhaps, bring more democracy to that country.
Yeah, well, that's a State Department. They hate anything military, and, they have this liberal version of the white man's burden mentality, where they're going to teach the Pakistanis how to have democracy. Look, the bottom line is this. You can't listen to the words. You've got to pay attention to what people do in real life. Benazir Bhutto had two shots at being Prime Minister. She was a disaster both times. And then she can still come here after blowing it twice and con American leaders in both political parties into believing she's the great hope for democracy. Benazir Bhutto wasn't the great hope for Pakistan. She was an enormous part of the problem.
But some would suggest in that part of the world where corruption and nepotism are so endemic that she would have had to have sort of made that part of her administration. She just maybe didn't make the most of the opportunities she had.
Corruption is the #1 problem throughout the developing world. It makes everything worse, including terrorism. Benazir Bhutto was from a rich, feudal, landholding family. She didn't need the money. But it's just, I understand the argument. I've heard it many times that, oh, you've got to run the patronage system to make things work. Look, corruption and democracy don't go together, period. Corruption destroys the trust between the citizen and the state. You can't do it that way. She was a thief. Her husband was and is a thief. And Pakistan, look, I didn't want to see her assassinated. Of course not. It warns us all how dangerous the terrorists still are. My point is simply that we were duped. She was not part of the solution. She and Nawaz Sharif, her political opponent, are part of the problem, this cult of personality.
All right.
I'll give you a challenge, John.
Well,
name one other Pakistani politician who's a leading light. They didn't let any come up.
Good point. Ralph Peters, thank you very much for being with us.
My pleasure.
The age-old question.